We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Okay guys, for the meat, we are going to start with, first of all, we have this 6-quart stock pot. You use whatever you have or however much meat you're gonna make, okay? This is what I am going to use. I am going to use a 5-pound boneless pork butt. It's a roast. I am gonna clean off some of this fat. We are gonna cut it into smaller chunks. I am going to use 1 medium onion that we're gonna quarter. We're gonna use some garlic cloves, about 6 of them, some comino, some salt, and some peppercorns. We are going to start, what we're gonna do is smash the garlic cloves. We are gonna strain the broth later. So we're just gonna throw it into chunks. Okay, so we're just gonna break them up, give them a good smash. And then the onion, we're just gonna quarter each side. We're gonna take this out at the end, so it doesn't matter how you cut it. We're gonna put it into our pot that I have going on over here. And now I'm going to cut up the pork roast. Okay, I like to cut it into pieces. Let me show you. This is very fatty, but you need that in order to give the meat a lot of flavor. And a lot of this fat will be strained off later. This big old hunk of fat here, I will cut that off, trim it off. Okay, so we just need them in sizes like this. Just like that. Like this big hunk of fat, I just cut it out. I don't use it. As you can see, I'll strip off that fat as I'm cutting it. So here we have the meat, the garlic, and the onion. Now we are going to add, let me wash my hands. Okay, now we are going to add the peppercorns. The peppercorns, about a teaspoon, just like that. And like I said, we're gonna strain the broth later. I'm gonna use some ground comino, about a teaspoon of ground comino, and about a tablespoon of salt. This comes to the boil, we will adjust the seasoning. Okay, I'm gonna pop y'all over to the stove and we'll get this started. Okay guys, I have everything on the stove and we are going to get this cooking. I have approximately, we're gonna cover this with about 3 quarts of water. Okay, you want to just cover the meat to the top, give it a mix to make sure that all your spices, your salt and everything gets incorporated. We're going to bring this up to the boil. We're going to let this cook down for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. It depends on the meat. So I'm going to bring this to the boil and we'll be right back. Okay guys, now that this is starting to come up to the boil, we are going to skim off the foamy parts from the top. And that's just so we can have a nicer liquid broth for our masa for the tamales. So I just go around and skimming everything that I can. Doesn't have to be perfect. And as it boils, it might foam up a little bit more and then you just go in and clean it up again. We're just, like I said, we're gonna let this cook down for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. I'll be back to check in with y'all. Okay, we are gonna get the chiles ready for the salsa that we're gonna make for the meat, for the tamales, for the pork, and for the masa, for the dough. Here I have what we call chile guajillo, and this is chile ancho. Okay, I will write down the name like chile ancho, and this is the package that I buy at my local grocery store. These products are pretty much readily available at any grocery stores now. And what I'm gonna do, we have to clean these first, okay? So what I do is I cut off the stem and then I just open them to get the seeds and the veins out. And this is the first thing that we're gonna do. And this may seem like a lot of work, and it is, but believe me, it pays off in the end with the flavor. We're gonna take out all the seeds. Okay, sometimes they slide off pretty quickly, and try to peel off the veins like that. That's easier for the blending when we blend them in the blender. So we're gonna clean them just like that. And this is the chile ancho. You can just peel that off. These break open pretty easy. See how the seeds just slide out, and you wanna try to get the veins out. And I'm gonna continue to do this for all the chiles. And then what I do is I cut them into smaller pieces, just like that. And that just makes it easier when we go to blend them. Just slice it open. Take out all the seeds. See, it has a lot of seeds. Just peel off the veins. We've come to the last one. I'm just breaking this one off in pieces and get all the seeds out. We are going to rehydrate these chiles. This seems like a lot of chile, but it's not. And if I have some extra, I just freeze it and use it for something else or use it for the next time. It freezes well, so that won't be a problem. I am going to get a pot and we are going to boil this. I'll switch over to the stove. Okay, I have added my chiles here to a little stock pot. What we are going to do is we are going to add some water, just enough to cover the chiles. We don't need too much, maybe about a quart of water. And then the only seasoning we're gonna add right now is a teaspoon of salt, and that's it. We're gonna bring this up to the boil. Just make sure they're all submerged. We're gonna bring it up to the boil, let them simmer for about 5 minutes, and we are going to shut it off. And then we'll go to the next step with the salsa. I'll be right back in a few minutes. Okay, now that the chiles have been boiling for about 3 to 4 minutes, I am gonna shut off the heat and we're gonna let them steep in here, let them cool for about a half an hour before we run them through the blender. So that's all they need. Just make sure they're completely submerged in the water so they continue to hydrate as much as possible. I'll be back in a little while after this is cool. Okay, it's been 2 hours since I've been cooking the meat, and I'm gonna show you it's ready, and it's just fork tender. You see how tender that meat is? Where you can just take it apart with the fork. That's exactly what we're looking for. So I'm gonna cut off the heat and we're gonna just let this cool before we start to handle it and strain out the broth. So we're gonna let this cool for about an hour and I'll be back to show you the next step. Okay guys, the next step for the chile is we are going to blend all this chile until very smooth. Okay, we are going to add 2 garlic cloves and a half of a white onion, and I just quarter it to make it easier for the blender. Clean it up here a little bit. Now I am going to put about a teaspoon of salt, and I adjust of course the seasoning as the process goes along. I try not to over salt anything. We're going to puree this till very smooth. I pureed this till very smooth, just like that. Okay, but we're still going to run this through a sieve because I'll show you at the end how you can still get little pieces of chile that doesn't go through. Okay, so we're gonna switch over to a bowl, run this through a sieve. Okay. Here I have a bowl and just a sieve, and we're gonna run the sauce through to make sure we catch any skin that may have not blended properly. And I just use a spatula. I'm going to bring you up for a close-up and I'm going to show you what it is I'm talking about when I say the skins. Okay, now you can see that part does not dissolve when you cook it. So you want to get this out. See, that's what it looks like. That's what doesn't go through. So we got to get rid of that, okay, and keep going with the sauce. And what I do is I have a little napkin here and I just throw these out and keep going. Keep going with the rest of it. And don't use your good kitchen towels for this to clean this up because it will stain. Okay, I'm going to continue to run this through, and now we are going to fry the sauce. So I'm going to switch all over to the stove. Okay guys, we are going to fry up the sauce in this skillet. I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of oil, and we're going to wait till the skillet gets hot, and then we're going to fry up the salsa. And then that's going to be it for the salsa. We're going to set it aside and let it get cool. Okay, now that it's hot, I'm going to drop the chile. You can hear the sizzle. And just be careful not to burn yourself. Turn down the heat just a little bit, and we are going to add a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to let this cook down for about 10 minutes, and that's it. And then you just turn off the heat. It's been simmering here for about 10 minutes. We're going to cut off the heat and put it back into the bowl, and we're going to let this cool down so we can take care of the rest of the recipe. Okay, now that the meat has cooled, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the meat out of the broth so that I can strain the liquid and get all the spices and other ingredients that we put in there, take them out. because we just want the clear broth. And we have the meat here. Now I'm just going to strain the broth. Okay, here I have a bowl and a strainer. And we're going to reserve the liquid. Any pieces of meat that you get here, you just take them out, put them in your bowl. We're going to reserve this, and now we're going to shred the meat. Okay, now for this step, what we're going to do is here we have the meat that's been cooled and an extra bowl. And all we are going to do is shred the meat. And as you can see, the meat falls apart very easily. So you're just going to take it apart like this. You don't have to smush it or anything, just for it to fall apart. We're still going to cook it into the red sauce, and that's the stuffing for our tamales. Okay, see how easy it just shreds very easily. And this meat smells so, so good. There we go. Now I'm going to transfer y'all over to the stove so we can do the final process for the meat, for the stuffing of the tamales. Alright, the last step for the stuffing for the pork meat, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of oil. Oil of your choice, it doesn't matter. And we're going to add our meat in here. And then we are going to add the red chili, and we're going to let this simmer. Okay, we're going to let this all simmer in here for about 30 minutes for it to absorb the flavors of the chiles. And once we put in the chile, this is going to be your last chance to taste and adjust your seasoning for salt. So what you do is I just break up the meat a little bit more with the spoon. What we're going to do first, here's some of that reserve liquid that I had from when I cooked the meat. We're going to add a little bit of that, not too much. We're going to add a little bit at a time. Remember, you can always add, but you can't take out. As I can see, it still needs a little bit more. Now we're going to add the chile. Okay, now the chile you're going to add to your liking. I personally like a lot of chile. I like the meat to be it's not spicy, but I like it with a lot of color. And of course, it gives it a lot of flavor. So I'm going to add a little bit at a time. And you have the fire at medium heat. Add a little bit more. See how it starts changing colors? A little bit more broth. So you just take it a little bit at a time. Just take your time with it. Okay, I'm going to add the rest of the chile. And for this amount of meat, the amount of the chile that I put in was exactly 2 cups. And if you want to add more, add some more. If you don't want it so dark, don't add so much. You adjust it according to how you like it or your family likes the meat. And that's going to be it, right? Now we're going to just let this sit here and simmer for about 30 minutes so that it can get all this good flavor in here. Soak up this broth, and then we'll be ready for the next step, which is going to be preparing the masa. Okay guys, we're going to let this sit here and simmer for 30 minutes and we'll be back. Alright, the next step for the leaves, for the corn husks, what we call hojas, these come very, very dry. They are very dehydrated, and they come with some, of course, dirt particles and stuff that we need to clean out. And what I'm going to do, because this is the biggest bowl I have, I'm just going to put it in this pot. And this is what the package looks like for people who don't know what they look like. I will link the information in the description bar so you know where to find it. I'm only making half of this for the sake of the video. And what we do is I add in my pot very, very hot water. I have boiling water. And of course, you're not going to touch it with your hands. So get something to press them down with. And we're going to let them soak for about an hour or a couple of hours till you get your dough ready. Okay, we want to cover them completely, submerge them in the water. If you need to add more water, just go ahead and do so, and I'm going to add some more water right now. Okay, then we're going to continue to add the water, and as you can see, the water is very, very hot, so you don't have to put it this hot. You can just soak them for a longer period of time with cold water. That is totally up to you. Okay, that should be enough. Now I make sure and I press them down to make sure they're all gonna get hydrated. And then I just put something heavy on top, like this bowl, and I'm gonna set them aside, and that's it. So I'm gonna move on to the next step, which is the masa, and I'm gonna move this over and we'll be right back. Okay, we're gonna start the masa process, and the measurements that I'm gonna give you are approximations. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. Here we have the dry maseca that I'm gonna use for this. You can absolutely go to your tortilla factory and pick up some masa that's already ground fresh, but this is what I have and this is what I like to use. I like to use half of this bag. I'm not gonna make too many. It's 2 pounds exact. Okay, I will write the ingredients and the measurements in the description box below, so please look there. Okay, and for the manteca, you can use vegetable shortening for this or even oil. That's totally up to you. I will use 1 pound, which is approximately, I have it right here, it's already been melted, 2 cups. Then I have the broth that we use to cook our pork, which is approximately 4 cups. I have 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt, and I have 1/4 cup of the chili sauce that we made, the chile colorado that we made. This, I might use it all, I might not. It just depends. I like color in my masa. I don't like to have it bland. So we're getting ready to mix this, and I like to make sure that there's no lumps in there. So I just get in here and mix it up. I'm gonna move this out of the way so we can start. Okay, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our salt. Okay, so I just put in the salt and just give it a little mix. And the reason there's so little salt is because everything else already has salt. Like the broth already has salt and the chile colorado has salt. So we don't have to season that. You don't wanna overdo it on the salt. You can always add, you can't take out. Okay, then what I like to do is add the chile colorado, and I'm just gonna add half at this time. And I'm gonna add the manteca. I'm only gonna add 1 cup at this moment. And as you can see, it starts to thicken up. It is nowhere near ready, of course. I'm just showing you the steps. I just like to break it up as I go. And then I start to add the broth. I'm going to put in half and then start mixing it. And it starts to come together, but it's still not ready. It needs to be, it's almost like cake batter, the consistency of cake batter almost, because it needs to spread. And as you can see, it starts to grind together, but it's not ready. We have to add more liquid. And at this point, I'm going to add a little bit more of the manteca, the shortening, and then we mix it. And I think the color of the masa is just about right. I just like a little bit of color in it, not too much. Don't want them too red. Okay, we still need more liquid. I'm gonna add some more. And it may seem like a lot at this point, but this starts to thicken up, so you have to go a little bit at a time. I hope you have a good view there. Let me move you over a little bit. There we go. Pretty sure we're gonna need a little bit more still at this point. I'm gonna show you a trick that I learned a long time ago of how to tell if you have enough manteca or shortening in your masa. Okay, this is still not ready. It still needs to loosen up a lot more. But I like to mix and mix to make sure it gets in there. Everything gets in there nice. Okay, as you can see, it almost looks like Play-Doh at this point. But you see how it doesn't really just shake off my hands. So I'm gonna get some more broth, and I'm gonna show you the trick at this point of how to know if you have enough manteca in your dough. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna show you a trick. This is a cup with cold water. I got a clear one just so I can show you. Hopefully you can see. You take a little bit of the masa. This is how you know if you have enough manteca in your dough, okay? And you make a little ball, and you drop it in the cup. If it floats to the top, that means you're good for the manteca. If it stays at the bottom, you need a lot more. And as you can see, this stayed at the bottom. I hope you can see there. Okay, so we're gonna keep adding manteca, and we're gonna try that little test again in a little bit. So we're gonna keep going, and here I have the rest of the manteca, the shortening, and another cup of broth, okay? And if we have to add more, well, we will. We're just gonna keep. You can do this in your stand mixer if you want to. Not everybody has one, so I wanted to make it the old traditional way, like I learned how to make it. And as you can see, it starts to loosen, really loosen up at this point. See the difference in the texture of the masa now? We're still gonna add a little bit more broth. Okay, now that I showed you what it looks like and how it still needs some more broth, we are going to add a little bit more broth. Here I have 2. We're going to add 1. Approximately 1, and this should be the last cup. Like I said, it seems like a lot, but once you work it in your dough, it really is not. Now we're getting to the consistency. I can feel it in my hands. Once you start to do this enough, you can tell in your hands just the way the dough slides. You know, everybody's family has, a lot of people's family have a lot of traditions that they sit and do tamales, and everybody does them different. Nobody's is right or nobody's is wrong. Everybody just does them different, you know. I like to watch people's videos and how they make tamales, and I try to incorporate tips that I see into my own recipes, you know. But everybody has, a lot of people have different ways to do them. Everybody's different. Okay, I'm gonna keep working this masa until I feel like, see how this, now it slides better off my hand. So I'm gonna keep working the dough because that's what I was taught. And that's how I like to do my tamales, to make sure everything is in there good. So I'm going to give this a good working with my hands. I'm going to show you again the glass with the water so we can test it for the last time. And then I'm going to continue to work the dough without adding anything else. I've been working this dough for about 10 minutes, and we did add the rest of the lard in there. Like I said, I will have the actual measurements down below. I'm going to test the masa now. It seems kind of loose, but I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator for a little bit to set while I get my workstation ready, okay? So what I do is I just drop a little bit, and you see how it floats now? I hope you can see that. See how the masa floats? That to me is knowing that the masa is ready. I cover it up, put it in the refrigerator for about a half an hour to an hour, just till I set up my workstation so I can start cleaning the leaves. And we will move on to the next step as soon as the masa is ready. So I'll be back. Okay guys, we're getting ready to start putting our dough onto our hojas, our leaves. And what I do is I already have these softened and cleaned and dried. So what I like to do, I just found this little gadget on Amazon that I'm sure you've seen all over the internet. And I put my dough here on the counter, and you pick up some dough, and you get, remember, you don't use the hard side. It has a hard side and a smooth side. You apply the dough on the smooth side. You pick up some dough on your little spatula here. You put it down, and then you just work it down. And if you don't have enough dough on there because you need some more, just add some more. And there it is, the perfect size. Put them to the side. Pick up your, this is a little big. Pick up some more dough. And that's it. Now, if you don't have one of these little gadgets, that's okay. All you need to do is use a spoon, offset spatula. You can do it with anything. Now let's try the offset spatula so you can see how I do it with that. Just put the leaf in your hand. That's what I find easy. And then just work it down like this on the table. You can even do it with the spoon. Just like that. Okay, not too thick. Let's go ahead and try it with a spoon so you can see. Okay, and if you feel your leaf is too big, just trim off a piece. Okay, just get some of your dough, just with a regular tablespoon, and then just work it down. Try to keep them all the same size. You don't want them too thick or too thin. And that's it, just like that. Your next one. But I found this little gadget, and ever since I found it, I just love to use it. I just put the dough on the counter, and then I grab some up with the spatula here, and then you just put it down, work it down, and that's it. And then you scrape it up. And I will link this product where I found it on Amazon. I'll link it down in the description bar. I just love it. So you don't want to go too high up, okay? Like these leaves are super huge. You just want to go about halfway. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep spreading these. And then we are going to add the meat, and I'm going to show you how to wrap them. Sometimes you'll find some silk from the leaves. Just pull them aside, throw them away. Now I'm going to clean this up, and I'm going to show you how I fill them with the meat and how we fold them to get them ready for the steaming process. Okay guys, now the way I fill my hojas is the meat that we made. Of course, I let it cool down that it's not hot, and I put the meat. You can put it on the center, on the side. It doesn't really make a difference. And then you just fold it over once, twice, and then you fold it right where the masa ends, and you go up, and that's it. Real easy. And then you just go to the next one, and you want to fill them all. And then I'm going to show you how we stack them for the steaming process. Okay, let me get a little further this way. Trying to figure out what's the best way to show you. And then the meat, you put as much or as little as you want. That's a personal thing, I think, from family to family. Everybody does it different. You do it how you like it. You know, it's your kitchen, you're making them. You do it how you like it. This is how I like it. So that's how I make them. But if you like them real big, real packed with meat, hey, go ahead. It's not going to make a difference from the process. It's just how chubby you like them or how small. I know I've seen some people, they make them ginormous. Okay, just break it up, put it in a little roll. And that's it. Real easy peasy. We are going to get ready for the steaming process. This is the pot that I'm going to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water. We're going to put about 2 inches of water, and then I'm going to put my steamer basket in there. That should be enough right there, just like that. And then I put my steamer basket, and we're going to start piling up the tamales, okay? So I'm going to switch all over to the counter, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, now I have my pot, and now I have my tamales. And what I do, okay guys, I'm gonna have my helper, my sister, put the tamales in because we had some technical difficulties. She's gonna show you how we stack them in order so we can steam them. Okay guys, we have it stacked all the way to the top. We're gonna add some foil to the top of the pot. Okay, we put some foil, and that's just to help retain the steam in the pot so that the tamales steam. So we're going to go ahead and put them on the stove. Okay guys, I've already covered it. I've turned on the fire to a medium high. We are going to set the timer for 1 hour and 30 minutes, okay? Okay guys, we were steaming them for 1 hour and 30 minutes. We checked them and they were perfect at that timing. So I turned off the fire. They were ready, and we just let them sit on the stove for about an extra 30 minutes with the fire turned off. So now we're just taking them out of the pot and laying them out. I am going to open a couple so you can see what they look like. Okay guys, the tamales have been sitting here resting for a little bit. I want to open them so you can see. Of course, they're like this, and then you just pop them open. And as you can see, they don't stick to the hoja. And then of course, if you cut it, I'm going to give you a close-up. Doesn't that just look delicious? And they are delicious. I've tasted them and they are just... So, this is my version of tamales. Look at that. Beautiful. I will leave the ingredients and everything that I use down in the description bar. If you have any questions about the dough or the tamales themselves, just leave it in the comments and I will get back with you. Okay guys, that's going to conclude my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you give them a try and like them, come back and give us a big old thumbs up. And go follow us on our Facebook page at Virtual Kitchen with Laura. Thank you for watching my videos, guys. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Okay, Lena, what are you making there?
I'm making some bean and jalapeno tamales, and the masa came out very good. And we're just putting them together so we can cook them in about an hour. And the beans came out very good. And we're gonna add jalapenos.